Hi, I'm Mark and this is Foothill Paint and Fabrication. Today we have a real fun project where we'll be taking a little electric car and getting it to go faster. My neighbor had asked me to take a look at it for her grandson and see what I could do. So the car doesn't currently have a battery in it, so it's hard to tell how fast it goes with a 12-volt battery, but we're going to be kicking that up to 18-volt cordless tool batteries. So we'll be switching it over to lithium-ion batteries, dual batteries, so they'll get plenty of runtime. And then we'll also be installing some other electrical components to make sure the batteries do not get over discharged, and then a speed controller as well. Right off the bat, I pressure washed the little car and a lot of the paint blew off. It used to be pink underneath. Somebody rattle canned it black, and so we're probably going to go ahead and see about getting some paint on this thing as well, make it look nice for him. And then so when he's flying around at 7 miles an hour, he'll look good too. So first things first, we're just going to see if we can pull some parts off this thing that need to get paint, and then we'll talk about the components we're going to try to put in here and get this thing to go a lot faster. So let's jump right in it. Okay, let's do a quick walk around here. You can see that it's just a little two-seater. You see a lot of the pink showing through where the rattle can paint came off with the pressure washer. Some had already peeled off, so when I started blasting it wasn't too hard to get the rest of it off. The wheels were painted completely black. A lot of the chrome showing through now, so we're going to see if we can get that chrome to stay and then just maybe paint some highlights around on the rims real quick. And you can see back here where the pink's showing through. So we're going to pull some of these parts off just to make them easier to paint. And back here you can see this is where the battery compartment is. It's pretty tight in there, but we're going to have to figure out something so the batteries can be switched out easily and the speed control can be accessed easily as well. So the first things first, we're just going to start pulling some of these panels off and then get to work on the electronics. All right, we're going to jump right in here. We'll be pulling hopefully these little fenders off, the little exhaust here. One of the headrests is busted off on this side, so we're just going to take them both off and junk them. I'll see if I can pull off some of the front pieces just to make it quick and easy to paint. And I can maybe get those painted and then have them drying while I'm working on getting the batteries in it and everything else. So let's hit the fast forward and then get this torn apart real quick. Okay, it took me, I don't know, 5-6 minutes to take the whole thing apart, make it a lot easier to paint. A lot of this paint's flaking off and it wasn't painted on both sides or not very well. Some screws and it was in pieces. It's no big deal. All the screws are the same size, so it's no big worry about getting the screws back. So what I'm going to do is probably scuff all this down. I'll probably clean it again, and then I don't know if I'll use an adhesion promoter on it or not. But we're going to go ahead and get this painted up. I'll see what I've got in the cabinet for paint. Probably rattle can it again. I don't know if I'll mix up paint and do it that way. I'll probably maybe pick up some paint designed for plastic, and then we'll go that route. So we got some fenders, got the seat, and then the hood, and the rails on the side. So this should be, really super simple to paint up. So we'll spend some time getting this prepped up a little bit, cleaned up a little bit better, and then we'll hang them up and get them blasted. I'll figure out what color. The chassis will still stay black, so we'll come up with something here. All right, let's move over and talk about the stuff we're going to be go ahead and putting in it. Okay, so the plan is to put some lithium-ion 18-volt batteries in it. So what I did, all of this came from Amazon, except the wire. So these are Milwaukee knockoff batteries. So if you happen to have a cordless tool set that you use already, and you want to, up the speed on your kid's car, it's a lot cheaper because you already have the batteries. Or you need a good excuse to buy more batteries. So these are knockoffs. We're keeping this super cheap. These were, I don't know, 30% less than, maybe 100% less than Milwaukee batteries. I forget what the price was. But they got good reviews. It's 6 amp hour batteries, so we'll have 2 of them. We're going to only be wiring this for 18 volts. If I wanted to try to make it go super fast, sure, we could put them together, make 36 volts. But I'm not entirely sure that, for one thing, that little car should be going that fast. And for another thing, that the motor just wouldn't smoke within 20-30 minutes. So the components in it, the gas pedal, the reverse switch, they're all designed for 12 volts. So we're going up, 6 more volts. It's not going to be a big deal. But if we try to jump that thing up to 36 volts, we'd have a problem. For one thing, the wiring's probably not sufficient. The switches aren't sufficient. So we want to keep this down and dirty, cheap as possible, and have a lot of fun for the kids. So, 2 of these batteries, we're going to wire those up so they'll get extra life. I'm going to wire it in such a way so if they only have 1 battery in it, they can just drive around. If they have both batteries in it, it just gives them longer run time. So these are right off Amazon as well. All they are, a lot of robotic guys and other project guys, makers use them. And what it is, it's just a way to power tap a battery. So these are obviously designed to match the Milwaukee set. They make them for DeWalt, Makita, all of them. So really convenient way to get, if you're wanting to power something that you're building or a project, or even if, while you're camping. If you wanted, it'd be great to take one of my cordless batteries along and power my, my radio or whatever, or some lights. So super cheap, 2 of these, and then you just slap the battery on it and you're good to go. Next thing is the speed controller. So this is just basically a rheostat that's going to control how much voltage is going to pass through it. So we're going to wire this between the batteries and the motor just to make sure that if they want to turn it down, maybe the older kid's driving, they're going to crank it up, and then a smaller child wants to drive, so then they just turn it back down so it only goes so fast. Just I didn't really have to get this, but I just want to make it safe for them. The gas pedal on these things isn't a variable speed; it's an on-off switch basically. Step on it, you go; you let off, you stop. So there's no throttling of the pedal. So just really simple. We're going to wire that in. Now, the thing about lithium-ion batteries is they do not like to be over-discharged. So if you take an 18-volt battery and you run it down to 9 volts, it's going to damage it. So I'm going to do a little more research. I think these 18s probably only want to drop probably maximum to 14 volts. So what we're going to do is we're going to wire these controllers in, and you can set these for discharge and a recharge. So these are not specifically for this. You could use these for solar panels, you could use them for a lot of different things. But what you can do is you can program it to disconnect the battery from the device when it reaches a certain voltage. So if they're driving around and these batteries, we have it set for, let's say 14 volts, 13 volts. We'll set it for that, and when the battery runs down to 14 volts, then it's just going to open the circuit and it's going to stop. Since there's 2 batteries, 2 controllers. So one may run down faster than the other. So I picked up 2. These are also super cheap. So the last thing we have is a little waterproof box or water resistant box. I would like to put the components in. I want to mount them in there some way so they can see them. I'd like to mount the speed controller in there as well with the knob sticking up so they can get to it. I don't know if this box is going to work out. It wasn't very expensive. The dimensions were close, so we're going to see if we can make that work. The compartment's also very tight when I have to make all this fit, so we're going to have to think of something, possibly a little tray that slides out so they can get to it so they can swap the batteries in and out. Really, there will be no reason to mess with these. Once they're set, there's really no reason to mess with it. I'm just going to mount those in the box down together, and then we just have to make sure that this knob is accessible. So it'd be nice if there was a high-low on here. I'm assuming that's low all the way and that's all the way up. So we'll do some experiment with that. And then just a inline fuse just to protect the system. And I dug around in my electrical stuff and I found some stranded heavy enough gauge wire, because we're going to have to do some wiring here. I'll get the connectors out and everything. So we're going to go ahead and start messing around inside the cabinet. First things first, I want to go ahead and get these parts scuffed up and ready for paint. So let's go ahead and get on that, and then we'll do a little quick montage, quick run through on that, and see about getting some paint. I'll check the cabinet, see what I've got. May have to run to the hardware store and pick up some cool colors for it. I'm going to decide what colors to paint this thing. So let's go ahead and move on to the scuffing and cleaning, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so we got all the parts up here. We need to scuff them up a little bit, make sure the paint sticks better than it did last time. So being budget minded, I'm always looking for a better deal. Purple Scotch-Brite pads, gray Scotch-Brite pads from the paint store are pretty pricey when you go through quite a few of them. So at the dollar store, you can pick up these little scrubbies for, I think it's a pack of 4, this size, for $1. So I picked these things up for kind of crap work and other stuff where I'm not going to use the purple Scotch-Brite pads. I use those quite a bit. But when I'm cleaning something or just kind of doing something like this, instead of using one of those up, I'll just use these. So, you know, you grab a handful of these from the dollar store for $5, you can have enough to last you a long time. Also, whether it's this cheapo one or a purple or gray Scotch-Brite pad, I always take a pair of scissors or tin snips and I cut them into small pieces. You'll find that when you're using them, no matter what size, you'll always wear around the corners where you're putting your thumb and trying to get it into a corner or something. So cut them in smaller pieces. You actually get more use out of them that way. So what we're going to do, we're just going to scuff these up real quick. I have some adhesion promoter, but I don't know if I'll spray it on there or we're just going to go straight away right to some spray paint. I've got some hammer tone colors in there. I don't even know why they're in there. So I'm going to probably go ahead and use kind of a hammer tone gray or something along the fenders and some of these other parts, and then maybe mix it up with a couple of other different colors just to make it look a little better. And it should cover pretty nice. It's not too far off of the black, although this pink's showing through, so we'll make sure we get that covered up. So we're going to speed this up here real quick, and then just get all these scuffed, and then maybe get some paint on them real fast. All right, so we got everything pretty much scuffed up. Not super good. I did hit this thing pretty hard with the pressure washer up close, so most of the paint that wanted to come off came off with the pressure washer. So as you can tell, it's just, there's really no flakes here. It's just dust from me scrubbing on these things. We're going to paint both sides. Do it right. Try not to spend too much time on this part. After all, they didn't ask me to paint it. That's just me going above and beyond like I usually do. I like it to look nice. If it's going to go fast, it should look nice, right? just like our cars and trucks and motorcycles. Go overboard like usual. So I'll probably spray this centerpiece here, just overspray it, and then mask that and paint the hood, you know, so it'll have a little accent on there. On these fenders, I'll probably do the same thing here. We've got a little detail, you know, right in here. So I'll probably overspray that, and then stick some tape over it and take a knife and cut around it, so, and then just peel that off later. And then on the seat, the seat has texture on it, and then it's flush on the sides and in the middle. So I'll probably paint the seat bottom one color, and then these other pieces another color. I probably shouldn't, but you know, why not, you know, make it a little nicer. I've got several different colors of paint and some masking tape. So I'm gonna go ahead and bust it out like that, make it look nice. So all the plastic parts are ready. There are a little bit on the car, the chassis itself, that's gonna need some work, but I'll just, I'll scuff that up off camera and then just kind of rattle can that real quick. So let's go ahead and get these cleaned up and get some paint on them, and then we'll see about getting some of the electronics in. All right, they've been scuffed up and blown off, but I always keep an old crappy, this is a tack rag, after doing, look at it, it's still tacky though. So I keep this laying around when I'm doing maybe dusting off, tacking off between primer before I lay another coat down, or when I'm doing parts like this. So you blow them off, they're still dusty. I mean, you cannot blow that dust off. So I realize this is just a crappy little kitty car, but I just like to wipe it over it real quick, and it pulls all the dust off. And one of the most important parts of it, if you're going to do any masking, it helps that masking tape stick that much better, especially if you're laying down some lines. You want to tack that off really well before you start laying any tape down. So you just hang on to these. I mean, tack rags are super cheap. I like this one when they're kind of worn out, because they're not quite as sticky. So I don't get it all over myself or leave streaks on the part. And all I do is just kind of run it over it real quick. It might seem like overkill, but you know, for 5 minutes, it takes 5 minutes to do it, you know, it's worth it. That way the paint is sticking to the surface, not laying on a layer of dust that was left behind just by blowing it off. When you scuff something or sand something, unless you rinse it with water or tack it off, the dust stays behind. There's no amount of air that could get all that dust off that. Even you take a white cloth and you wipe something you know you blew off really well, and it'll have dust on it. So always try to tack them off. It's not just for final paint jobs. It's in between because it promotes the primer or sealer. It promotes adhesion. You want that sealer or primer going right down onto the bare surface with nothing in between. I went ahead and pulled the bumper off too. This is the bumper, I guess what you call a bumper. And we're gonna go ahead and get this painted too. There's a little bit of chrome left here and there, so we're gonna kind of mask that off, save that part, and the rest is gonna get paint. And then we're gonna take these outside and get a little paint on them in some spots, and then let that dry so I can go ahead and mask off the little details I wanted to mask off, and then we can be able to blast the rest of the color on. So let's move it outside and get some paint on these things. Okay, we got most of the parts painted. These will get this color after I mask off these highlighted areas. So I just sprayed them with a different color. I'll mask that off, and then we'll coat the whole thing in the same color as that, and the hood will get the same thing. We just have to pop the tape off of where I taped off the chrome here. And then once these are going to have to dry overnight before I can mask on those. So always peel the tape back on itself if you can. So the tape rolls back against the paint. you don't want to lift straight up because it'll actually lift the film of paint. So if I take it like this and I just pull straight back and kind of just chase that line a little bit, and then we got a little chrome highlight on there. So I know it's a silly little car, but I like to do, I usually go too far and do things I don't really, nobody appreciates but me usually, but anyways. We're going to let these dry overnight all the way. I'll mask these off, get the color on top of these pieces, and then start figuring out the wiring for the batteries and the voltage controllers and everything else. So as you can see, I went ahead and masked off and painted the steering column. There was a lot of pink showing through and some other stuff, so I went and scuffed it, just masked it off real quick. Just blasted, rattle canned it. So we're going to let that set before I try to unmask it. So here is the front. The hood sits over this, and there's a lot of room right here. So I'm thinking about trying to run a power cable all the way to the back. I think the cable goes from the gas pedal here or the reverse neutral switch here in the middle. So if I can pull that back through, it may feed all the way back up to here, and I may just have to add on to it a little bit. I think this would be a lot better spot for the batteries. We'll make the hood. The hood had a little strap on it so it couldn't open all the way, but I think we're going to make it so the hood opens more, and it'd be nice just to be able to slide those batteries in right here. That'd be perfect if they fit, and then put that waterproof box down inside here, and then even just the throttle controller, the voltage controller on it. So I think we're going to try to move it up here. The back is so tight I'd have to make some sort of tray, excuse me, tray that slides out, and that's a whole nother thing I don't want to get into. I think this is going to work out a lot better. I can make a plate across here to mount both those battery mounts, and they can just drop the batteries right in. It'll be perfect. Those batteries also have little displays that show how much voltage is left, how much battery life's left in them. So if those are facing up too, that'd be really nice, so they can just push the button. So I think that's going to be the game plan. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get that wire pulled back, fish back. I may have to take another cover off, and then if I can do that, I'll drill a hole and we'll get that wire fished all the way to the front here, and that's going to make our lives a lot easier as far as getting electronics in here. Okay, it looks like there's a lot of screws holding this top cover on, but that wire fishes right underneath here, and I don't know where it goes. It may run down inside this chase right here. So we're just going to pull this cover off real quick and see what we got. Taking this thing way farther apart than I wanted to. But that's usually the case for me. Hope the axle doesn't fall off. Never pulled one of these apart before, so I have no idea. I guess there is a screw in there. They're full of mud, dirt. There we go. Surprisingly, all these screws are Phillips. Wouldn't hurt my feelings if they were Torx. Okay, so a couple of hidden screws underneath. Like I said earlier, almost all these screws are the same kind. We'll take that out, pressure wash that off better. Okay, so here's the motors, and here is the power cable that I wanted. So as you can see, there wasn't much wire down inside here. So we're going to see if we can't fish that back through this chase right here. There's some screws in it. If we can get to that, and then we'll try to fish it back forward. I don't know how old this little toy is. There's a lot of dirt and grime and other stuff up inside everywhere. It's probably sitting out for quite a while. So yeah, here's, whoa, it's all pretty loose. So here's the power cable. Here's the power for both motors. They run up. I didn't realize there were actually 2 motors on this thing. So look, I can't believe how small they are. That's really, really remarkable. But there's a forward and reverse switch, so both have to go up to the switch so they can reverse the current. But the main power is going to run, let me get this off of here. See if we can't pull through that tape. So the black and white are power in, and it looks like it runs. There's some tape up underneath here. Probably taped all the way. But that frees us up quite a bit, so I'm going to have to possibly flip this thing over or on its side and then see if we can't get this wire to run to the front. Okay, I flipped it up on its side. Looks like the access is from the top for everything, which is good. And pull these screws out. This paint's a little wet there still. Can't reach it. This little car is getting a little wobbly. I've got so many screws out of it. It doesn't, well, maybe there's no screw in there. Well, feels like it. Maybe it's a fakie. Yeah, it's a fakie. I'll pop that out. Let's take these screws here. Boy, looks like this whole setup gets wet. So here's the neutral and reverse switch. Boy, it's full of sand. All right, got a big drain hole down there to let the water out though. But here's our power cable. And all they did was split that, you see, and it goes there's the gas pedal right here, which is, I don't think it's a potentiometer. I think it is just on-off switch, which it doesn't really matter. All I need to do is pop this little chase up right here. It looks like the gas pedal plate pops out too. So if I can just get this to pop out of there, then I can actually just backfeed this wire straight up right into that, and actually not even have to extend the wire. The wire is going to be long enough. So it's going to work out pretty good. Let me grab a screwdriver and see if we can't pop that up. Okay, we're going to pop this off real quick. That didn't sound good, but it sounded like a screw breaking. I didn't see any screws from the backside. No, it's just pops in. There we go. One more down here. I got it. There we go. Okay, so there's the switch. So we're going to go ahead and just feed the wires up through here. The trunk or the hood, underneath the hood is right here, so pretty simple. Just drill a hole, run the wires, and we'll be set. So I'm pretty happy about that. That's going to work out really good. And then fitting the batteries up in here is going to be a lot easier. I'm going to go ahead and clean all this up too. Just because I got it open, I might as well clean it up. So we'll move forward and drill the hole and get that wire run next. Okay, I think I've got a game plan for the batteries and the other electronics, the discharge controller and the speed control. The battery mounts will go right up against the firewall here. I mocked it, put the fenders and the hood back on temporarily just to make sure I had clearance, and
I'm going to have to trim just a little bit right here so these batteries will be able to slide in and out. Luckily the release form is right here. You just pinch it and pull up. So I've got the mounts already on there. So these mounts will screw directly to what would be the firewall in a real car. We'll screw those on, and then these batteries will slide right down in there. A little tight on space, but it's better than the compartment in the back. So the battery's going to go something like this. I'm going to trim a little bit off before I paint right there, and then we'll be able to screw those in place, and that'll be perfect just right there. The hood will close fine. Then finding a spot for the discharge controllers. They need to be in not necessarily a waterproof, but water resistance type box. So the one I have is too big for what I was going to do in the back, but I tried to find something I could fit down in here. That's not going to work. I may end up putting the speed control right here, and then I ordered a little waterproof box, and what I'm going to do is attach it to right about here on the hood, and then when that hood closes, as you can see, there's quite a bit of gap in there, so that should be sufficient. So, and then I'll just run the wires up into it, and then it'll be fine. So underneath the hood like that, it should be, you know, out of the weather, and it'll be up high, so if any moisture gets up inside there, it's going to run away from it, not settle down in the bottom of the box here. So that, I think that's going to work out good. The next step, while I'm waiting for that little box to come in, is I need to mask off these highlights right here that I painted in advance, and then we're going to go ahead and get these painted. I also need to mask off the seat. I sprayed a little different on there too, so we're going to mask those areas off and paint them a different color, and then these can set out to dry. I still have to clean down around where I pulled all those covers off. There's a lot of sand and dirt down in there. I'll just scrub that up and blow it out with air gun, and then we're going to be pretty much ready to start putting this thing back together. So let's go ahead and get this stuff masked and painted so it can set out in the sun and dry, and then we're going to be ready to go. Okay, this video is getting a little long, so we're going to cut it right there. There'll be a part 1 and part 2. We'll finish up the getting the electronic components into the car and getting it all put back together after all the paint's dry, and we'll get this back to my neighbor's grandson so he can start ripping around in it. So thanks for joining me here at Foothill Paint Fabrication. Hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already, and I'll see you on the next one.